Well, hello, my friend, and welcome back to this next episode. First off, let me start off by saying that I am truly grateful that you are with me, that you have chosen to hit the play button, and that you have chosen to take time in your day to listen to this podcast. I truly appreciate you and I love you. So, if you're listening to this episode, chances are that something inside you resonated with the last episode. And today, it's my intention to talk about the part that almost no one ever prepares you for. They don't prepare you for the excitement, they don't prepare you for the clarity, and they definitely do not prepare you for the panic. This episode is called The Panic No One Talks About After Choosing Your Purpose. And I want to say this right away. If you've ever felt anxious, overwhelmed, or destabilized after making an aligned decision, I want you to know that nothing, and I mean nothing, has gone wrong. What happens is most of us assume that once we make the right decision, things should start feeling a bit calmer, right? That we should have more peace, that we should have more certainty. But to be honest, for most people, including myself, the total opposite happens. You have finally chosen yourself. You have finally admitted some truth to yourself. And when you do this, holy moly, all of a sudden your body reacts like you are in true danger. You start to have these racing thoughts. Your chest starts to tighten. You definitely start to second guess every decision that you made moving into this purpose. And to be honest with you, that moment can be so terrifying because no one warned you that this was going to happen. So here's the part that changed everything for me. The panic isn't a sign you made the wrong decision. I was thinking that. The panic made me think there for a while that I made this wrong decision. But then I realized that the panic wasn't a sign that I made the wrong decision. The panic was a sign that my nervous system just lost something familiar. Something that has been familiar with me for the last 2 decades. And even what was familiar sometimes wasn't aligned. And sometimes it was even draining. And the thing was, it was predictable. And the nervous system values this predictability more than happiness. Let me say that again. The nervous system values predictability more than happiness. So when you make the choice to choose your purpose, your body will often respond with, holy moly, this is new. This is uncertain. This, my friend, may not be safe. And that response isn't a weakness. It's biology. So growing up, we're taught that fear only exists before the leap. That if we were really aligned, we'd feel peaceful immediately. But alignment doesn't mean comfort. It means some honesty. And when you have that honesty, it often disrupts patterns in your body that you have relied on for many, many years. That's why people say things like, I thought this would feel better. Why am I more anxious now? Did I make a mistake? And those questions don't mean that you're off track, friend. They mean that you are in a transition. All right? You are in a transition. This is important to clarify. The panic is loud, urgent, spiraling. However, intuition is calm, even when it's firm. Panic will say to you, fix this now or you'll lose everything. But solid intuition says, this matters. I need you to stay present. One of the biggest challenges after choosing purpose is learning not to confuse panic with intuition. Because panic wants to send you back to what's familiar, even if it's costing you. It wants to hold you back. It wants you to go back into that familiar world. And it scares you because it says, it's costing you this. So when we reach that point, that's the problem, is then we start to think, well, I need to retreat. This is where a lot of people will retreat. And it's not because they weren't meant for a purpose. It's because they weren't prepared for how to regulate or how the regulation works that comes after this decision that you make. So what happens is they may sit with it for a couple of days to a week and then they go back. Not because they're aligned, but because it quiets the nervous system temporarily. And I want to say this gently. Going back doesn't make you a failure, but neither does staying through this discomfort. Let me say that again. Going back doesn't make you a failure, but neither does staying through the discomfort. The key is awareness, not judgment. What helped me wasn't more affirmations. It wasn't convincing myself everything would work out. What convinced me was learning how to slow down inside the fear instead of fighting it. Naming the fear. Allowing the fear to exist. And slowing down and not solving it in such a rushing manner. What I learned was that panic doesn't require action. It required me to be present. And by doing that alone, it changed everything. It changed everything. This is something I often repeat for myself and others. This middle is not an emergency. The uncertainty doesn't mean danger, and the discomfort doesn't mean failure. I want you to know that you're allowed to pause. You are allowed to take small steps. And you're allowed to stabilize before expanding. Understand that purpose doesn't demand urgency. Fear does. Let me say that again. Purpose doesn't demand urgency. Fear demands urgency. So if you're listening and you're thinking, I choose purpose and now I'm scared, I want you to hear this with clarity. You didn't mess up. You didn't lose your intuition. And you're not alone in this phase. Your body is learning a new way to be safe. And that takes patience, not pressure. So instead of asking yourself, what's wrong with me? I want you to reframe that question and ask, what part of me is trying to protect me right now? Because that question is going to change the relationship entirely. Fear doesn't mean, or fear doesn't need to be eliminated. You need to understand the fear. And when you understand it, it begins to soften. So through this podcast, we're going to be returning to this truth. And the truth is, alignment is a process, not a moment. So in the upcoming episodes, we're going to be talking about things like why positive thinking often makes this phase harder, not easier, and things what actually supports integration. So if this episode resonated with you today, stay with me on this journey and follow the podcast. And I want you to remember, purpose doesn't mean panic disappears. It means you learn how to stay with yourself when it shows up. I'll talk to you soon, my friend.